Okay, that's fine. People watch this, do they?
Apparently.
Really? Oh my god.
At least 4 people.
People even come on the show regularly.
Really?
Oh, that's different. I mean, I
Maybe you'll
come on
learn
these
this now.
things. I don't necessarily.
Stage
I've got
fright.
music to listen to. I don't have time to.
Some of the...
What is that you're drinking?
That's my own urine, yeah. Sterilise, you boil it up first, you see. Distill it, yeah, a bit of sugar and a bit of yeast, and you're well away. Oh, that's good stuff, I'll tell you.
There you go. Now you got your beginning clip, right?
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Sunday Roast. We're back again with 2 wonderful guests. We have David and Allshorts. David, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm David Henig from social media and Twitter, and I know something about trade, but that doesn't stop me tweeting about lots of other things as well. Actually, we can't call it tweeting. Anyway, whatever. Musking.
Wonderful. Great to have you back. Allshorts, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Hello there, I'm Allshorts, and I live in France. And I was affected by that thing called Brexit back in 2016. Destroyed my business, that it did. And now I'm doing YouTube, talking about Brexit and other stupid stuff that seems to be coming out of this. They call it a government or something, don't they? Yeah, are they supposed to be our rulers? Because that's what it feels like. It feels like a dictatorship to me. Very bad.
It's always great to have you back. My wonderful co-host, Alex, can you tell us a bit about yourself for anyone who's new to the show?
Hi, I'm Alex, also known as Political X. I run a YouTube channel. I'm a journalist and I'm also a historian. And my wonderful co-host, Max.
My name is Max. I run the Robespierre channel where I talk about British politics and Brexit in particular. Alex, what's our first topic for today?
Interesting. Suella Braverman. She's left office. In quite a furore and caused...
Gone and forgotten?
Yeah, well, maybe. It's been interesting as well seeing how much damage she did in leaving. And, you know, it almost felt a bit like she burnt the house down in order to promote herself. I don't know. Allshorts, what do you think?
I don't know if you ask me, but it's about self-preservation. And is she laying down the gauntlet, or is she just trying to create a path for to get back in, maybe as the next Prime Minister? Wouldn't that be lovely?
I mean, I think we should remember what happened briefly on Remembrance Day and how she got sacked. Well, after saying that sleeping on the streets was a lifestyle choice and we should take tents away from homeless people, she then called upon the far right, in effect, to defend the cenotaph from people who weren't marching anywhere near it, which they did mainly by attacking the police.
We were protecting it.
This was last Saturday, so it wasn't exactly the normal behaviour of the Home Secretary, but these are not normal times.
Well, no,
and some people were also getting upset about the fact that she was also telling the police what their job was supposed to be, and that is supposed to be not what politicians do. We actually have an independent police. So all things considered, that was all the run-up. And then she wrote a letter in which she wrote the word betrayal 173 times and said there was a secret deal between her and the Prime Minister. No details have been forthcoming yet about this secret deal. But maybe, we have that to look forward to. But it was quite a few days. I mean, normally that would be a story we'd be talking about for many days to come, but then other things happened.
Doesn't end, does it? It's just chaos. It's conservative chaos. I've never seen a conservative. I don't know in history of a government like this. Max, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's absolutely insane what's going on. But I think what she's doing is it's all part of her plan to become the next leader of the Conservative Party. So when Rishi Sunak crashes and burns, loses his seat, but definitely loses the election, she'll be able to sweep in and say, look, you should have voted for me. I was right all along. I had promised to stop the boats and all of these things. Rishi said he would go along with that. He didn't. Now you need to vote for me. But it's not about winning an election. That's not her goal. It's about internal politics, and she wants
But there is this view of Suella Braverman and many others that she and the views she espouses are terrifically popular, and this is the view. Now, you do see opinion polls. Virtually all the opinion polls say that's not true. And the way they respond to that is generally to say, the people are wrong, we are right. And so we get this sort of sense that you've got this bubble who think that basically the entirety of the UK is made up of people who pretty much worship at the altar of Saint Suella, or the policies at the very least, and that the reason that the Conservatives are at 22% or 25% in the opinion polls is because they're not right-wing enough.
Yeah, but it's not.
Now that seems to be where this all comes from, and if only they were more right wing, if only they were more aggressive to foreigners, if only we cut ourselves off from the rest of the world, if only we had the perfect Brexit, the perfect exit from any international obligations at all, the people would love Suella.
But what's it say about the people when she's got history?
Well, it says about the people, they don't appear to love her anyway. So
yeah, but if you think about her past and what have you, she got took off the New York bar, didn't she? And she was part of this Buddhist cult, which she apparently goes every month. And she got off the lead. Well, he's dead now, but the leader of that particular Buddhist cult off. It was he's dead. Well, I think he passed away in. Oh, quite can't remember what it was now. But anyway, he passed away. But he'd was a sex offender, abusing men within this, but she got him off. What kind of person does that? And it was only like a year ago, wasn't it, when she was a previous Home Secretary, and she lost her job for being a leaky Sue, and also she wrote a scathing letter about Liz Truss back then as well. She's got history. It's like everyone's seem a very short memory. It's like that's the past, and this is the here and now. We just talk about what's going on now, but she hasn't changed. She's the same person. She's just an evil piece of work. She really is.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder why Sunak actually brought her back in. And the rumor that was kicking around in the media was the fact that he needed someone on the right wing of the party to come in and put down the law or break the law, whatever way she sort of felt fit, in order to appease part of the party. Well, you always hear this thing about the Tory party being quite a broad church, but it was interesting because you said Saint Suella, David. I thought for a second you might have said Satan Suella. I couldn't quite make out
around here. Well, there's two theories going around here. One is that Rishi Sunak needed support from the right of the party, feels that he needs to appease her. There is a second theory, which is Rishi Sunak is desperate to show he is actually part of that incredibly right-wing circle, who bizarrely enough have never forgiven him for not being Boris Johnson, even though Boris Johnson actually isn't quite that person, but that Rishi Sunak actually believes in this stuff. And if we see, I know we jump around in topics, but if we see his response yesterday a few days ago, on the courts on about the finding his Rwanda policy illegal, chance for a reset? No. Double down. I am now angry, Rishi, and I am going to fix it. I'm going to shape the world to my spreadsheet. Basically, I mean, it's suggested to me that essentially, apart from everything else, Rishi Sunak is basically the spreadsheet operator, the backroom, the backroom guy who somehow has become the leader.
He's a Napoleon without any ability, isn't he? Short man with a few complexes and issues and inabilities, and quick to anger as well, but no power.
Well, he'll check that out on the spreadsheet. He'll see what that says, and then he'll decide whether he agrees with it.
He's extremely weak.
Have you ever had any interactions with him?
Me, Sunak. I mean, you do realise that I'm, blacklisted from government. Well, most of it. Some bits still annoyingly talk to me, but it's not good for my credibility. But no, but I did bump into, bizarrely enough, his father-in-law in a shop on Regent Street a few weeks ago. And his father-in-law, who runs an incredibly successful business, very rich man, but is not at all like a Sunak who likes to travel by helicopter and not mix with the common folk at all. His father was buying coats or something or other in Uniqlo. So there you go. I'm bringing that as an exclusive to this show. So, but no, I have had no. He's walked past me once, and he is the thinnest man I've ever seen. Actually, Rishi Sunak. He is not only is quite short, but he is incredibly thin.
I
And you see
know a
that
couple of
sometimes
people-
in pictures that when he's pictured next to someone else, and he just he just looks like it's the kid on Work Experience.
So is that why he's always got short trousers? Then the ones he can get off the peg in the kids section.
We shouldn't get personal, should we?
They
They're asking for it, aren't they?
are.
I mean, you see the stuff that's coming out on social media, and you're going, on the one hand, they're able to instigate it, and then you're seeing the vile pushback against them as well, which, it's almost like they're creating the monster that they don't realize could potentially devour them. It's not like the right wing are going to be on their side when this, like, if it all kicked off, it's not like the right wing are going to be on their side, and yet that's who they're baying to. Max?
But at the same time, they brought back David Cameron. What the hell was that about?
So he wants to be a lord.
Yeah, well, Lord.
Well, apparently
Cameron.
he was bored. Apparently he was bored. He was bored not being prime minister, just as he was kind of bored being prime minister. So he sort of said, "Well, foreign secretary. I think I could do a bit of that."
I'm surprised. I imagine Rishi Sunak went through his list of probably anyone he knows. He's like, Jeremy Corbyn. No, not. Don't bring on Jeremy Corbyn. Okay, who's next? David Cameron. Yeah, we'll bring him back.
Do you think there was a part of him that thought, well, Boris has had that position before, should I bring him back?
Yes,
He did a good job then, didn't he?
Feels very random and just out of the blue.
There must have been something else going on. I assume he didn't want to do too much of a shuffle, because if you look at it, it's like we don't have anyone minister in a position for more than 9 to 12 months, and you cannot get any policy through. I mean, it's hard enough getting policy through anyway. Nonetheless, having a new person turn up and try and build a new set of policy. I mean, you look at Braverman, she clearly had these ideas in her head. I mean, that letter was one of the most arrogant letters in history by miles. I mean, the fact that she was like, oh, you didn't listen to me. It's like, well, maybe your ideas were shit. Did you actually think of that, Suella? No, of course not, because your ego and your arrogance are on a different plane.
But Sunak has these ideas that he's going to fix everything in, with one step, he's going to fix his popularity. So, with one step, I'm going to cancel HS2, and I will then be popular. Not quite working out. I'm going to cancel it in the city it was due to run to, and replace it with something that's not at all defined, that's full of errors. And this one's another one. I am going to bring back David Cameron, and I will suddenly be popular, and everyone will say the UK is a truly glorious country, and look at how important their foreign secretary is. And everybody just went, what? Yeah, all right. Yeah, whatever next. As you say, there'll be another one along in a few months' time. Rishi's got a new date.
Is it the case he's surrounded by people who are just continually telling him, "Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right," because maybe he's really rich and they want, I don't know, a job with him after or something like that.
Maybe. Regarding David Cameron, maybe Liberty Steel will now get their money. Their taxpayer money.
He's got a lot to answer for, hasn't he?
He's in a good position now, isn't he?
So genuinely, I think, is it to do with the people who surround him? I don't think we actually know. It just strikes me that it's sort of one thing after another. I think it is part of this sort of right-wing bubble. He just assumes that, yes, he should be popular, and if only he does X, whatever X is the next thing, then that will make the difference, and he will suddenly be all popular. Bit hard for me to tell. I mean, it may well be that 3/4 of the people who are working for him, or nearly everybody, is going like, I'm going to need a job in the next year. So what's the point of me standing up against him now? I need to spend most of my time talking to Google or Microsoft or whoever, and make sure I've got a job when all this comes crashing down.
So they're just all yes men.
Maybe it's the spreadsheet thing that you were talking about earlier. He puts into the spreadsheet minus HS2 plus boats, whatever, equals victory.
Equals victory. Doesn't, right then. HS2 plus boats plus Cameron.
It's a bit like, how does he think?
Suella.
If he's going to double down, he's going to have to produce some. And if he can't leave the ECHR, and without completely totaling, for example, the Good Friday Agreement and God knows what else that's attached to it, then doubling down isn't going to help his cause. It would be better. I mean, if you were politically savvy, wouldn't you just change course? Wouldn't you even consider you going, look, there was a really stupid policy set up by my predecessor. We've got a better idea. We're going to set up a processing center. Those boats won't come in. And eventually these processing center being set up, make it secure. It's in France. You don't let the press near it. And it begins to shut everything down a little bit. I mean, is that me just being too clever or just too nice?
You're looking perplexed. Now, can I just ask you, what part of the last 7 years have you missed when you're sort of suggesting that there should be competence? You know, if that question, you know, sorry, that's maybe a bit unfair. So let's ask another one. What part of Sunak's record in government have you missed when you know, suggesting that there may be some competence coming out? I mean,
he got inflation down. Didn't he get inflation down? That was all Sunak,
yes,
wasn't it?
He's been cycling around all
to help out.
You know, I see him around my Tesco every day, putting the price tags down just so they can get inflation down. You know, that's that's probably been his main contribution.
I really hope that's the case. There was an amazing picture of him dressed up as a Deliveroo driver. If anyone's seen that, but the point, it's possible. It could happen, couldn't it? He could lose all his money and I
don't think so. But the point stands. You're assuming competence. I don't see why you're assuming competence. If you just assume that this is a scripted series that we're unfortunately the victims of. This is just yet more part of the script of incompetence. People won't keep watching if all this daft shit doesn't happen.
But everything he says, it seems like it's just like spur of the moment kind of. I'm going to say this, I'm going to say that. It's like he's following Boris Johnson, you know?
It's not far off, is it?
No, I don't think so.
Well, Dominic Cummings claims, he got Boris Johnson in power.
Not misogynist, by the way.
Sunak was his man. Sunak was Cummings' man as well. So there you go. So it's actually, maybe that is exactly right, because Dominic Cummings, the self-styled cleverest man in the universe, another one who has done nothing whatsoever to earn any of that kudos whatsoever. And by the way, just in passing, I haven't read Nadine Dorries' book, but of course, that also happened. The Nadine Dorries potboiler on, the dead cats in the Conservative, literally dead cats, I think, in the Conservative Party. So it's just one long melodrama that is going on here, and I think that I just don't understand why you're expecting competence here.
It's one of those things of false hope. You think to yourself that they're so evil and they're so good at spreading hate that level of competence is there. Is there something else? Surely to rise to the top of the Conservative Party would instill some level of competence or intelligence. Going to Oxford? He did go to Oxford. Went to Lincoln College. Was that an element of intelligence? I mean, he must also, and let's face it, he must get some level of advice from somewhere to give him some sort of idea of what he's doing. We agree that they're in a bubble. I'm playing slightly devil's advocate. How have you got me to start defending Rishi fucking Sunak? Like, what the fuck?
Well, that's why I was not invited on again last time, because I accused you of being Boris Johnson's agent, and I was never invited on after that. So you should have remembered that.
Feels very Trumpian to me.
Yeah.
Allshorts, you said you wanted to talk a little bit about wind power, and how that's. Well, we are talking a lot about hot air.
Sensitive microphone, but it's not that sensitive.
What's been going on with green energy in the UK?
Well, the deals get put out, don't they? And they can bid on the deals. And regarding the wind farms, the offshore wind farms, what have you, and no one bidded. And this was about a month ago, or 6 weeks ago, and no firms bidded. Now, they just recently, and the government just recently announced that they're actually increasing the actual the offers, just so they can try and get some, get them to bid on it, but they're still not high enough. But while everything's going on in British politics, obviously we're talking a lot about the war in Hamas and what have you, and the Gaza Strip, and we're not talking about other stuff. The stuff that matters to ordinary people in the UK. I'm not saying that this stuff's important, because of course it is, but it does consume everything, and this government absolutely loves it because it's just something to talk onto and latch onto, like they did with the Ukraine war with Boris Johnson, getting dressed up, some sort of cosplay. But it feels a little bit like lots of things that really are important are not getting discussed and not getting dealt with, because there's not enough time in Parliament and not enough time in the media or anyone. It's just, everyone is just, I think people are tired as well, to be honest. And even doing my channel, talking about Brexit and politics, it sucks the life out of you. It really does, and it's difficult sometimes. But if we don't deal with this stuff, especially regarding the environment and what have you, well, nothing actually really matters.
Do you think it's the reason that they're bringing in the increased prices for bidding for wind power, and I assume it's all on offshore still, isn't it?
That is
There's nothing onshore. Yeah. Is that's just to raise more capital for the Treasury? Would that be the gist of it? Not that they care about the environment or anything, but just to raise the coffers.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah. It's a very difficult situation, yet no one really wants to talk about anything regarding the environment. Whenever I do videos about it, no, they complete flop. But the thing about it is, for me, is that if we don't deal with it, well, then what have we got? We need clean water, which we haven't got. Okay, Theresa Coffey's decided to do a runner now, but we haven't got clean air. We haven't got clean. Although, to be fair, on ULEZ has pretty much improved the state of the air in London. I'm sure that the right wingers hates that. Yeah, they'd rather all the kids die, I suppose. But if we don't deal with this stuff, these kind of issues, and not just on a national level, but on an international level, we're not going to have anything to. Well, our kids' futures don't look that rosy, put like that.
There's a point that you raised there as well, is that one of the issues that is being talked about, of course, all the time is immigration. But if we don't deal with climate change, we're going to see more refugees fleeing countries that are suffering the sharp end of climate change. So you would imagine that the right wing would be saying, well, we actually don't want all these people coming here, so let's do something about climate change. But they're like, no, we don't want to do it. We don't believe it in some cases.
That's true.
So we don't want to mitigate it. We don't want to deal with it. And we don't want to deal with the consequences of it.
Yeah,
it was interesting reading the OBR report that stated this year's OBR report. I think it was in June, which basically came out and said we've got a problem because we're going to lose all our tax revenue to electric cars, due to electric cars. So I think it calculated that the tax revenue from petrol cars was 25 billion, and that essentially they didn't say it, but you could see that Sunak's policy towards that was, let's keep the petrol cars going then, so we don't lose that revenue so quickly.
Is that the reason why, or was it the $1.5 billion deal for his in-laws?
I don't think that, but two things there. One, I'm just going to quote this back at you. It was interesting to read the OBR report. I mean, each to their own. That's what I will say to that. Secondly, on electric vehicles, yeah, you've got a problem. I mean, we've not been uprating fuel duty in line with inflation for many, many years, and that's going to happen. You've got a problem with actually finding, doing new things. So any new things, if you like. It's pretty obvious. It's been obvious for some years, frankly, that you should be having some kind of national road charging scheme that takes over from duties on petrol. The technology is now perfectly in place to do it, but it falls in the too difficult category, and unfortunately rather a lot falls in the too difficult category. Practically everything actually at the moment. And so it's certainly going to be in the too difficult category for the next year. Question then is, will Labour come in and immediately say we're going to do all of these different things? Big ask that. So but we're basically on hold anyway. I mean, what you just said, we're basically on hold anyway with any normal politics attempting to do anything for until there's an election. But even then, the stack of problems is just enormous. And yes, the entire green transition is part of it, but people actually having somewhere to live is kind of part of it as well. And dull things like the health service or education system, the entire public services, local authorities that are all bankrupt, and so on. Railway system that doesn't work, etc., etc. So you've got, and not. Well,
can I say we've seen some? Can I just say we've seen some success on that front at a local level. So we've seen mayors do a better job than maybe central government. So maybe if Labour are talking about devolving more powers to cities and to local administrations, maybe they could deal with the problem better. They could, install more, give more incentive if they have the money, of course. But then that's dependent.
Yeah, look. There are things that can be done, but it's a huge problem. But essentially, the point is, and nothing is happening. You're absolutely right. Nothing is happening right now in Parliament. We also had a King's Speech at some point. the bills are nothing in particular.
Nope.
So politics is on hold while while the world waits to hear from us about what we think about Israel and Hamas and how we're going to sort it.
Well, it's an interesting segue, but it also connects in with everything here. If for whatever reason, that conflict expands, we can see petrol prices going back up, and then you go back into the issues of inflation. So it is in our interest to say, well, I mean, we could be a bit facetious towards the government in terms of saying, look, how important are you if they're going to listen? But we also know that our weapons factories are very much supplying the Middle East and specifically Israel. So if we did turn around and say we want a ceasefire, and we said to our industrial complex, military industrial complex, please tone it down, and we tried to pressure the American government to do the same, not that they'd listen, but it would be something. And you go, if this gets out of hand, and there have been rumblings from Iran and Jordan and Hezbollah, which are predominantly based in Jordan, if that was to expand, I could see petrol prices going through the roof again, because that's what they always do. As soon as there's any rumblings in the Middle East, they'll use it as an excuse to jack up the prices.
Well,
and then you're back to square
Putin also
one.
had a bit of an issue, didn't he?
What's that?
Putin, he also had a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
He threatened the West.
Well, I spoke recently with a bunch of industry professionals who were completely scared of oil prices going up as their biggest problem, which does remind us. I think there's just a little segue as well into inflation coming down. Does remind us that in our global world, it's wonderful the UK government doing such a great job against inflation, like every other country, because it's all come down in the same way in every in every country, because you had a temporary spike due to energy prices having gone up and shortages of labour, and that's all unwinding. That was all a COVID and an energy price spike, and it could happen again. You could get energy prices going up again. So we hope.
David, can you explain to me why, when inflation is at 10%, it's nothing to do with the government, but when inflation is at 4%, we should all give Rishi Sunak a round of applause?
I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's what he's asking for. I think he's asking for your votes, not your applause. So I mean, that's to start you on that. I think that's the iron rule of politics, isn't it? That good news is claimed by everyone, and bad news was nothing to do with me. It was everybody else. Our inflation does look like it's sticky. There's another thing about inflation, and I mentioned earlier about putting the tags down on prices in Tesco. Overall inflation is coming down, but food price inflation remains pretty high, as does accommodation costs, interest rates going up. So anybody who's getting a new mortgage is finding that they're having to pay a lot more. So lots of things that people actually have to pay for on a regular basis. They're not quite seeing those benefits as much as the government wants. So whether or not Rishi Sunak wants applause, the problem is that if I'm paying £2 for 6 eggs, then I'm and last year I was paying £1 or £1.30 or whatever, then I'm unlikely to give that level of applause that he's perhaps demanding.
That's like the GDP, isn't it? We might have slight growth in the GDP, but how much does it cost to get there? Like you say about fuel prices and components, importation costs, red tape. It all increases costs, and obviously labour costs have gone up as well. So the actual GDP has less worth than it did. So
I mean, GDP is about but it's about how it's distributed as well. Who gets that GDP. But inflation, I say, it's hitting on the costs we all have to meet. Electronics aren't going up much in cost, haven't done for many years, but food is still. So that doesn't get stated very often. But I can't, Max. That's what politicians want. They want your praise. They don't appear to be getting it. In fact, the current government don't appear to be getting any from this show.
I don't know how they can afford to live. Really, yeah.
So should we start beating up the opposition as well?
Ooh, what was that, Allshorts?
There's 50% inflation on olive oil at the moment. So God knows what it is on avocados.
That apparently is down to the olive groves being absolutely decimated by climate change. I think there's been a 30% hit on olive groves. There's all sorts of hits. If you look at the damage of climate change doing to a lot of the southern Mediterranean countries. It's some of the crop yields are 30%.
And the
I
fish.
think wheat has been down. Sorry, what was that?
And the fish.
And the fish. What's the inflation like in France? Because it looked like Macron's put in place some interesting controls. I think there was discussions with the supermarkets about keeping 5,000 items down at low price.
That's it.
And I know that electric's being kept at a low
inflation
price.
busting tactics they've been doing, and they've been using it as a promotional tool as well, to be fair. But many of the supermarkets here, such as Leclerc and Super U and what have you, have been having certain products, certain lines of products, quite considerably reduced actually. So the price of food here is still fairly pricey here in France. I'll be absolutely honest, but there it always has been. But the farmers, you see, got a huge amount of power here, and compared to what we got in the UK, because the buying system is totally different. But in the UK, we're going and seeing a lot of empty shelves, what have you, again in the UK. But that's down to the fact that they can't get the stuff in time. Whereas before, there was like the next day, they put their orders, the supermarkets put their orders in for the next day, and they'd get it that day, the following day. And now it's like 2 to 3 days. If you follow Liz Webster on oh crikey, X, formerly Twitter, and she quite often posts things on there about that sort of stuff. And it is, if I make the comparison to France and the UK, we've pretty much seen no real shortages. Okay, we had a bit of shortage of eggs, and that's about it, and it's all fine now. But the farmers, you see, they do get paid reasonable amounts of money. If they don't get paid what they want, they'll end up dumping a load of horse manure in the car park of Lidl's or something.
Swapping their fields for the highway, hundreds of French farmers drove their tractors to Paris. On the city's main ring road, they disrupted traffic to protest against French government policies and international trade deals that they say make their lives harder and create unfair competition.
Or in front of Parliament.
You shouldn't have said that. You've just been talking about trade. Well, they've been trying to avoid this topic. Yeah, sorry.
David, can you tell us about this wonderful trade deal with Florida?
Kemi Badadock.
I will, but I'll explain why it's so amazing. Just after the point about why we can't get so much food onto our shelves, and France can, is that a lot of Europe's supply chains are organised around regional warehousing centres. The most famous one is, for example, Amsterdam for flowers, or there's fish in Boulogne, and it's obviously harder now for the UK to tap into those sort of wholesale markets. More cost, and there's just more cost in the whole system. Now, the way we get around that, of course, is by doing very exciting trade deals. And what we've got with Florida is, as was billed, I believe, a $1.1 trillion trade deal with Florida that I don't want anybody to call a Mickey Mouse deal. Sorry. In which we agree that we're going to talk to each other.
Is that it? I haven't looked at the detail yet.
Well, we might. I mean, look, I don't want to kind of be completely unfair. We might in the future agree to talk to each other and do something that helps a UK business. So there may be some, one business may get some benefit in the future.
So Ron DeSantis would have loved that, wouldn't he? Because it gives him that, because he's running for president. That would look quite good, because he can go, look, and have a trade deal with the UK. But the thing that I get that confuses the hell out of me is if Trump somehow manages to get past all these charges and runs, there's a good chance he's won. And the British government have just endorsed his opposition lead candidate for the Republican Party.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, look, no, but we're doing deals with all these different states. Well, they're not really deals. They're called Memorandums of Understanding. So, as I say, they're generally a long list of things that we're going to talk about, and maybe some of it delivers something somewhere along the line. What it doesn't do, mostly, is make trade any easier.
I do find it funny how they slag off Macron, but then they're like, we'll go and do a memorandum with Meloni because she's far right enough.
But he has actually fallen out with Disney as well, hasn't he?
Which is spectacular. Yeah. How do you do that? Like, they are one of the most powerful organizations in Florida. Although their share prices have absolutely collapsed because their movies now suck. It was at $200. I think it's at $63 now. Like, that is a massive collapse. that is pretty big.
I'd just like to ask David if he can explain to us why a memorandum of understanding is so, for a better choice of words, crap. Like, even what's generally contained within it. So, because you'll hear Brexiteers talk about, well, we have a memorandum of understanding. I don't understand what it is, but it sounds really cool.
It's not basically what the difference is. It's not a treaty. It's actually the deal to deport people to Rwanda was a memorandum of understanding, and part of the reason why the courts struck it down was saying, well, it's a memorandum of understanding. It has no basic legal status. And the same with these trade deals with Florida and other US states. They have no legal basis. What they say is, we agree that we'll cooperate with you and we'll talk to you in the future, and here are some of the topics we may talk about. Now, taken as one part, a very, very small part of a much bigger thing, that's okay. I've signed memorandums of understanding in government. They don't necessarily do much, but they might do. You never know. As part of a full diet or whatever, but they're not. Yeah, they are just not a treaty. An actual treaty, an actual free trade agreement commits both sides to do something, and to having a dispute process when they don't. These memorandums of understanding commit to no such thing. Which is why, again, in the case of Rwanda wasn't really committing to doing anything because it was in a memorandum of understanding. So that's the fundamental difference. But mainly they're just a bit of a figure of fun. The trade deals with US states. It's not they couldn't be a bit useful. They're just a figure of fun for the way that the ministers have to go and say this is the greatest thing ever, when clearly they're just some sort of minor thing. And by the way, just to clear this up, and EU member states can do memorandums of understanding with US states as well. So it isn't even really a Brexit bonus.
Italy done one recently with India, I believe, and a few states in the US as well. No, I believe Italy did one with California not that long ago. So yeah, but
really,
as David has said, they're not all that great.
Yeah, so what you're saying really is it's just a handshake deal.
Yeah, more or less.
Didn't we have a memorandum of understanding for you to come on this show?
Oh no, I don't even get that because you rejected my suggested contractual terms. I don't know why I came actually at all, but after that, I was hoping maybe next time I'd get a better deal. But sorry, did I see clause something or other? Probably not.
Clause 16, yeah, which said that Rwanda could send refugees to the UK, which Braverman got pulled up on the day before she got sacked. With of all people who pulled her up on it was Laura Kuenssberg.
As well, which we've had a good look at it. There is also a suggestion that the UK will resettle some of Rwanda's most vulnerable refugees. How many people do you expect will come to the UK from Rwanda under this scheme?
No, we don't foresee that happening.
Well, hang on, it's in the agreement. It says the participants will make arrangements for the United Kingdom to resettle a portion of Rwanda's most vulnerable refugees in the United Kingdom.
Our arrangement is very much focused on people who are coming to the UK from safe countries and unlawfully, and then being resettled to Rwanda.
But it's in the agreement then. So why did you sign it if it's in the agreement? That's what it says in black and white.
Our scheme is uncapped. It means that we can potentially send over several thousands of people from the UK to Rwanda. When I went to Rwanda, I saw with my own eyes how Rwanda is getting ready to receive these people.
And you have said that, but is there a limit on the number of people that Rwanda could send back to this country? Because you've signed an agreement that says in black and white the United Kingdom will resettle a portion of Rwanda's most vulnerable refugees.
The balance and the reality of this agreement is that Rwanda is taking people from the United Kingdom. We are resettling people who have arrived here illegally and therefore will be removed or relocated to Rwanda. As I've said, I've just seen the accommodation that's in train. They're building the housing that will be used to accommodate people who are coming from Rwanda. I visited a school that will be used to support the education
And you've said
needs.
that, but it is clearly here in black and white that the agreement you have signed also says that the United Kingdom might have to take refugees from Rwanda. But I think our viewers will hear that you don't want to address that point.
Well, so the arrangement is very clear. On a balance and overwhelmingly, Rwanda will be taking people from the United Kingdom, not the other way around.
Okay.
And it was absolutely amazing. She was really pressing Braverman to give an answer to this. How many people can Rwanda send us? Braverman just did the
That's why she didn't know.
Answer. Go on.
Sorry, it's like she didn't even know.
There was an element of that, wasn't there?
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Until at the very end of the conversation where Kunzberg had asked like 3 or 4 times, what about the numbers? How many can they send? She just flipped off. I've never seen her do this to a Tory. I don't think I've seen her do this to a Tory before. But she flipped her off and basically said, oh, you don't want to answer that question. To which Braverman was like, and sort of went into a bit of a stutter over it.
But can you remember when she was in the committee meeting and she was asked some very awkward questions and she sort of shifted to one side and sort of passed the buck to her colleague?
Was that in regards to getting someone, when the MP asked her, how do you come over from, let's say, an African state?
Yeah, immigration.
Yeah. Again, it's
safe routes. So legal routes.
Which begs the question, is it she doesn't understand or she's pretending not to understand? And I don't know which is worse, because either she doesn't know how people can come through a safe route, or she doesn't know if people are actually coming from Rwanda, or she's pretending not to know this. Because in either way, it's like if you have a surgeon in front of you and they're like, so I have to do an incision here, right? You're joking, yes? Or do you not know? I don't know which is worse. Well, it'd be probably worse if you don't know how to do your job. So it seems that Suella Braverman doesn't know how to do her job.
Is she making an assumption that she believes that nobody else knows? Why would they ask me that?
Well, there's an element of that. There was Marina Purkis dropped it on X yesterday, I think, where she showed a clip of people being interviewed, basically saying in a cafe outside, I didn't get where the location was, but it was somewhere in England. And they were being asked, oh, what do you think about what's happened with the Supreme Court and them stopping people coming over? And they were all saying, oh, there's not enough for us. There's not enough of housing. There's not enough of this. There's not enough of that. There are not enough jobs. And you're going, you might be right with the housing. I think that's a big topic that no one's really addressing, including the Labour Party. Most charities and organisations are saying we need 400,000 a year. I think that's achievable. Labour are saying we're only going to do 150,000 a year. And the Tories are just not even talking about it. That should have been top priority. Start building houses, everyone, because it solves a lot of the problems. But it was interesting hearing these people complain about, oh, there are not enough homes. But they were then blaming the migrants. And you were going, but we could build those homes. It's like the social media and government narrative has been so well coordinated to a specific group of people that essentially, I hate to say this, there's an element of brainwashing going on. Because you're going, and it's or very good propaganda, because you're going, that's not right. You've been fed this false narrative. It's these guys that can build them, and they're choosing not to. And it's no shock when you delve in deeper that, I think it's 66 Conservative MPs are landlords, and they're clearly blocking stuff. We talked about freeholds in the last episode. That's been blocked, and they've had to come up with a new way of getting around it. Go on, Max.
But if you look at, for example, the Daily Express, and they'd run an article on, the fact that, I don't know, the EU is putting checks on goods coming in from the UK, they'd sell that as some sort of Brexit victory. Like this is just how insane things are. So it's the media play a massive role here, convincing people either to vote against their own interests or to convince people that their greatest enemy is somebody who has literally nothing, has no power, no money, no influence. They've arrived in the country with the clothes on their back, but they are the greatest threat to their livelihood or the greatest threat to civilization, instead of focusing on the people who are actually selling this idea.
The big thing in 2019, there was 3 things that won us the election. It was nothing to do with me. It was Brexit, it was Boris, it was Corbyn. And it was as simple as that. Those 3 things together was a great campaign. Great ingredients. At the next election, we haven't got those 3 things. So we're going to have to think of something else. It'll probably be a mixture of culture wars and trans debate. And
you look at what Brexit did and how it split the country. And I was been doing some reading on the American Civil War and the restoration that took place afterwards. And interestingly, one of the pieces of propaganda that came out was the American dream and the movement from the East Coast to the West Coast. And part of the reason for this falsification propaganda, because it basically makes it sound as if the Americans were just moving across this empty land, whereas in fact they were committing genocide and wiping out all the natives. But part of the reason for that propaganda was to create some sort of unification for the country. And all these guys have done since Brexit is continually create culture wars.
Yeah, more divide.
Which split the country. And you're going, America really needed that restoration to take place, and they needed people to come together after a major split. And you're going, well, with Brexit, they've just continued the split and they've reinforced it. I think there's a change though, because in part, we've got a youth generation that's just completely rejecting conservative values, and at the same time, we've got the older generation are just slowly leaving Earth. Is that? Should I just be more blunt?
Well, I mean, I look, there clearly is a bubble that it exists there, but I do actually think that it's being, all the figures say it's being rejected by the majority of people, and as things stand at the next election, it will be quite decisively rejected, and then the Conservatives will decide that they're probably not right wing enough, and they'll try it again. Hopefully, it'll be decisively rejected again, and at that point, maybe, just maybe, something will change. It's kind of interesting in the US that Biden and the Democrats continually seem to poll worse, but perform better actually in their in votes. For all that there's this great culture war in America. Actually, the Democrats have been doing pretty well in votes. Now, not there's still clearly a large percentage who do believe all of this stuff, but there's also a large percentage who don't. Now that's your grounds for optimism, or for not sort of jumping out the window right now, is that actually large percentages do appear to be immune to it, and even among the elderly, particularly around London and the southeast, an awful lot of them, including people I know who are lifelong Conservatives, won't be voting Conservative because they think all of this culture war nonsense is rubbish. And that's why they, the Tories are terrified of losing the home counties. That's why they brought Blue Dave back to, because he's going to single-handedly save that. I don't think he is actually. But...
You think there's a chance to bring back Boris? Do you think there is a chance that could happen? Do you think?
Enough, I was thinking that earlier. It was like, you're looking at these figures where Sunak's polling seems to have cratered as a result of bringing back Mr. Cameron, Lord Cameron, sorry, sir. And there was, it actually appears that's done him bad. A lot of the reaction has been just sort of laughter and, oh my God, you really are desperate, aren't you? And you sort of think, well, could they? They couldn't really. He's not in Parliament. He, surely they couldn't. But you know what? They could. You wouldn't completely put this past the Conservatives. Remember where you heard this first, guys.
Who would be worse to bring back, Truss or Boris? Allshorts, what do you think?
Oh, it's got to be Truss, isn't it? Trussonomics. Boris Johnson is a bit of he's a populist, and he just wants to satisfy everybody. He don't want to upset anybody. That's why he failed. So a bit of a puppet, really, I suppose.
What? Give Truss more than 6 weeks and see what she does with the country? No, thanks.
No, I don't want Truss. I do it in Boris.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. I agree with you. It's like, which one's worse? Well, one of them failed to outlast the lettuce. That
was classic. That was. Was it the Daily Star or something done that?
The Daily Star, which actually tends to have the most cutting edge political commentary these days in the UK. You may be missing this, but their front pages are often.
That was class. That was. I thought of that one. I'll tell you.
Works of art. Actually, my favourite one, shouldn't say this about such things. When that Russian
Lebedev.
The
Russian foreign secretary.
Not the foreign. The one who'd been crossing Putin, who threatened them. The caterer turned mercenary leader.
Oh, him.
Yeah. When he died in that plane crash, and the Daily Star led with, "Who saw that coming?" And that's. So I think there's actually some wit and humour there. But yes, not Truss. Thank you. Don't remind us of that. Could they go back to Boris Johnson? I mean, it's.
I'm thinking that they could have Boris Johnson in the cabinet, but they wouldn't go back to him as being leader. So I don't think that they
could be just desperate enough. I mean, goodness.
Bring voters.
I don't think they can. I think they've more or less a lot of the party have in fact just given up and just accept that they're going to lose. But you should never rule any of this sort of stuff out.
It's interesting we were bringing up Russia because there was a couple of interesting things. There was a rumor kicking around that the head of Wagner, I've forgotten his name, was in Costa Rica, and that the whole thing had been staged. And
that was the fellow I was talking about. Yeah.
Which is interesting. There was another interesting article that came out about Russian troll farms the other day. Apparently, there are about 20 big Christian social media groups. And I think there was a report that came out that identified 18 of them were Russian troll farms. And Lebedev was in the House of Lords for once and coming out and complaining about woke culture again.
Why the hell is the BBC trying to boulderize Fawlty Towers, one of its finest creations? Why can't we mention the war? Why are they trying to sandpaper old Dahl? Why can't we say the word fat? Have attitudes really changed so fast? Around the world, people are noticing what is happening and are saying, look at Britain, the home of Western liberal values. Look at what happens in Britain today if you say or think something about human biology that used to be pure common sense.
And this happened on the same day of the sacking, so it got that along with the CPTTP stuff all got brushed under the carpet that day as well, and Jeremy Hunt's austerity got brushed under the carpet. But it was just interesting to see that with the Russians, there's still stuff going on that hasn't been addressed. No one's addressing it, and Putin's
with Lebedev, there was an extraordinary front page of the Evening Standard as well during the week. Some absolute culture war, crazy stuff. And he's written a few articles that say, culture war and woke is terrible because I'm being criticised as a Russian because Russia's invaded Ukraine, was more or less and he's writing huge long articles saying he is the victim. He's the victim of Russia invading Ukraine. Not Ukrainians, not those who are dying, but him.
Was he writing his own newspaper?
Sorry? In his own newspaper, obviously.
Yes, his own newspaper. And there's an interview with him where he's talking about the invasion of Crimea, and you listen to his words, and then you realize that the words he's using have actually come from a Russian foreign ministry statement justifying the invasion of Crimea.
But I think what I would say is that it's very complicated and textured subject that a lot of the time is misunderstood in the West. And Crimea, what people don't realize, has been for many, many years, many centuries, part of Russia, and only very recently part of Ukraine. So even though I would say that the referendum may have not been held under the right circumstances, I think if...
You think it was a genuine
I think the actual outcome of the vote would have been the same. One thing I would say is that yesterday we've seen that Russia has reached out to the West, and I think now it's time to stop Cold War rhetoric on both sides and start talking. The Cold War is over, let's not start another one.
And he's literally repeated it on the BBC, and you're going, yeah, well, then you're a dick. Quite frankly, you're a total asshole. You deserve to have this shit thrown at you. But I mean, again, you could, going back to the culture war stuff, if they wanted to get rid of it, Putin provided a perfect scapegoat to unify the country. And they threw it in the bin, probably because they were all taking bungs. It's not even probably. We know that the only way you get rich in Russia is if Putin backs you. We're talking billionaire rich. So a large number of those billionaires have come over to the UK. They've got UK passports. They can now donate to the Conservative Party. And they have been. And I think the total's somewhere in the region of about 8 million. And there's even a clip of Nadine Dorries saying we've got to listen to our donors. Because if we don't, they'll go mad.
The Conservative Party donors have said themselves that they aren't going to support the party if the Prime Minister is removed. I think a number of MPs in marginal seats need to hear that and need to understand what they're doing. £80 million those donors have donated to the Conservative Party over recent times. It's those donors that have helped us to win the election, and they need to hear that message.
So you're going, right, so there is a complete track here that you've created. I mean, if I was the bad guy, if I wanted to be the bad dictator that wanted to mess with the UK or split the EU or mess with America, there's so many routes to do it that are now easy that weren't really there in the 1990s or in the Cold War, including social media and morons allowing people that are mates with Putin to become UK citizens. It's shocking, and it doesn't look like it's going to be dealt with until they're out. And there's another reason for the ECHR withdrawal. They're doing an investigation into whether or not British democracy has been a breach of human rights because the UK government refuses to investigate Russian interference. And it makes you wonder, is part of this a bigger plan to get out of the ECHR, get public opinion, so the Conservatives don't get caught up in a court case?
What happened to the Russia report?
I think there was a news article saying that Rishi had received it. I think it had been completed, and he's just sat on it. And of course, because everything else is going on, because it's Russia report too, everything else is going on. no one's batting an eyelid about.
I'm afraid I don't believe in conspiracy theories. I nearly do now, because now Nadine Dorries has said there is a Dr. No who is sort of secretly controlling the Conservative Party and possibly the country. And obviously, if Nadine Dorries says there's a conspiracy theory going on, then I almost believe this, but I don't, in fact. So sorry to that. Apart from the conspiracy, there was that is the trade conspiracy, which is that we are forcing the world to get tongue twisted by CPTPP, and we're doing a very good job of that. But apart from that, there are no conspiracies.
How are you so sure there aren't conspiracies out there? What makes you think that Putin would be a bit of an arse and do a cheap version of a wrecking job? I mean, you know, if you're a bad guy, this isn't even difficult. This is like the door's open to bribery and corruption.
Oh no, other people have conspiracies. I'm just pointing out that the state of the UK government. You're asking me to believe that the people around the UK government can actually deliver some big complex plan, around a conspiracy. I don't buy it. I see no evidence of such competence.
Did you
got to look at the COVID inquiry?
Did you read the Russia report for Trump and why the Russians weren't able to actually interfere, but they attempted to interfere with Trump? Did anyone read that? That was spectacular.
Dmitry Klokov, a former press secretary to Russia's energy minister. Klokov's ex-wife had contacted Ivanka, offering his assistance to the Trump campaign. So, that is someone with ties to the Russian government offering help to elect Trump. Ivanka forwarded that email to Cohen, who Googled Dmitry Klokov, and concluded that the person they must be talking about was a former Olympic weightlifter by that name, a man who has videos online like this.
And one of them managed to mix up, all the way through to the interviews with the FBI, the identity of a Russian foreign minister with that of a weightlifter. And you're going, dear God, and apparently during the interviews, he still thought the weightlifter was the correspondent from Putin's foreign ministry trying to contact the Trump administration. But it does prove your point, David. There's a level of incompetence with popularism that's beyond belief.
Was the Russian minister's name Grant Shapps?
If that is his real
Michael
name.
Green? Okay.
Oh, there's a man who really knows how to run a spreadsheet.
How many accounts, Excel accounts, does he have?
I'll ask this, David, then, because we brought it up a bit earlier, and I'd love to know if you've got any thoughts on it. But the money that we are paying into the EU, has anyone quantified the amount that businesses are now paying into the EU to compensate for the fact that we haven't got membership?
I say, they're not really. That's not really quite on the same thing. So some people have quantified the money that the government was paying into the EU versus the less money they're now getting in tax as a result of lower growth, and suggesting that's already a loss to the government. In terms of what business are paying, when you're trading now, you have to pay all manner of agents and middle people to trade. But it's not necessarily paying to the EU. Certainly businesses are footing extra costs. I haven't seen a number as to exactly what, but it's not them paying the EU. So it's not quite the same thing. But yes, in general, there is the view that all that complaint about how much we're paying to the EU, the economy has lost far more money than was being paid into the EU. And just a simple example of that, we used to pay money so that the EU Commission could function and have lots of officials doing trade. Now we have to have lots of officials doing trade and agriculture and whatever. So it fairly obviously wasn't this huge saving, but you can't quite offset it in the way you wanted to. Sorry, that's a really boring answer though.
No. I mean, people come on here to listen to politics and how it all operates. Like, it is a curious question, because at the end of the day, it does seem that part of the reason we paid that bill was to save us paying individually. So the government paid it instead of individual businesses.
But one of the reasons why public spending is having to go up is we have to have all these people doing jobs that previously were being done by the Commission. And then you say, we want to get rid of these people. Well, look, we've got 600 people doing trade policy now. We used to have 40. That's an increase of, a lot. All right, on its own, that's not necessarily the big number, but then add all of that up in agriculture and in different areas and all the regulatory agencies, it adds up to quite a quite a large number. So that's what. That's where the cost saving doesn't look so clever anymore.
But also there's the issue of like businesses that have closed or moved operations abroad. They probably wouldn't be covered under that. So, for example, the cheese company that ended up just closing its operations, stopping its trade with the European Union, you're not able to account for that. Yeah,
yeah,
they may be able to
it's really hard to account for that in totality. You just do it, and that's where you do it in a kind of GDP level or overall growth. But generally, it doesn't get you the kind of big numbers. What it shows you is, for example, UK inflation is running slightly higher than other countries. UK growth is running slightly lower. But unfortunately, for at least the people who would like to show that it's a disaster, GDP doesn't fall off a cliff, because lots of the things that the UK does are not that much effective. We still sell Scotch whisky around the world. Rolls-Royce engines or whatever. So a lot of the stuff still happens. The cheese maker is not doing it. 2 people lose their jobs, or 5, and there's lots of such small stories. But on the other hand, Rolls-Royce still sell their engines, and that's worth, probably all the cheese we produce and much, 10 times over. So
it's not just cheese makers, is it? There's loads of small to medium enterprises all been hit by this, and lots of them have gone out of business.
Well, since you've got records in your backdrop, I was a couple of years ago. I was in a record shop in southeast London, and the owner was getting a bit chatty. I was his only customer that day. It was a foul day. And he said to me, "What do you do?" And I thought, this is not going to be good, but I'll try it. I said, trade Europe. And oh my God, 20-minute rant about the fact that basically he could no longer sell any of his stock out to Europe. Now, judging by some of his stock, I mean, I'm surprised that he was selling that much. But even so, those are the kind of people who are just no longer bothering. If you're a small
people's livelihoods.
Yeah, small retailer, and it's those. It's not. It may not be the Rolls-Royce engines, but it is the small. It is the small businesses that we are supposed to be in favour of. And
also, don't forget, it's also money that gets spent in the country. A lot of it, like Rolls-Royce, a lot of that money get offshored.
Yeah, and just to finish on the, exactly, and just to finish on that point, lots of people are working in that. This is supposed to be the Conservative Party of small business, but instead it's this right-wing blob we've been discussing. So there you go, QED.
What was your business, Allshorts? Because you said you got shut down.
I pretty much got shut down because of Brexit, really. So I lost a large proportion of my customer base because of, loads of people here moved back to the UK because they were frightened because of Brexit. They didn't know what's going to happen. But also we don't get the amount of people coming here buying old wrecks of houses, which is kind of what I specialised in regarding making windows, doors and stuff like that in our workshop. And those people aren't coming anymore. Now, recently, there's actually, I don't know if you've heard, it hasn't gone through French Parliament yet. They're going to give those with second homes in France a visa, long-term visa. So I don't know if it'll be the 12-month one or what it'll be, but there'll be a reoccurring visa. And also they're going to recognise the GIC card for 6 months. So that's only 6 months.
That's not going to get around the 90-day out of 180-day issue. Okay.
No,
that won't get around it, but the visa wouldn't it?
The visa will make a big difference because these people better stay, but they're going to have to sort out some healthcare, which have to be private. So, for some people, it's going to make a big difference to them. But obviously, in France, they, it's like any country, they want, foreign investment. But we mentioned earlier in this stream about house building regarding it's not just about getting the house, building up houses, which is going to push down the price of the houses. And then you obviously got the developers and what have you who are going, they don't necessarily want that because that devalues their stock. But how the hell are we going to get the materials at the right price when the value of the pound is low compared to what it used to be before Brexit? And we've got to import majority of our building materials from the EU.
All right, you're setting me off here.
Sorry.
I'm going to get cut off, but here's the problem. If you want to build as many houses as Alex wants to build, what you're going to find is exactly that. You're going to find that inflation will start spiking upwards because we haven't got the people to build it, we haven't got the skills to build it, and we haven't got the materials. Now there's
people are in hotels.
There's a bit of a sly deal going on at the moment because what the developers, as far as I can tell, want is they want to relax planning rules, not so they can build more houses, but so they can build houses anywhere they like, and it reduces their costs and increases their profits. The problem with the UK housing system, or the main problem as far as I can see, is it's almost entirely reliant on private developers. Why are private developers going to deliver to the country what the country needs? They're going to deliver what the housing developers need. So don't start me off on that. And then there's a whole bunch of people who just say, oh, it's all about planning reform. Well, that might be a part of it, but there are just so many bits to that.
There's many facts. I've been in the industry a lot of years,
in
the construction industry in the UK, and it's extremely complicated and multifaceted. You get property developers like Wilcon Homes, Boves, all them lot. They'll sit on the land, so they'll get planning permission, say for 1,000 houses, for argument's sake, but they've got land there to build 10,000 houses. So they'll put that be a roundabout with 5 exits, but then use 2 of them or something. They'll sit on that land until they're ready to build, not when the houses are necessarily required, but when they're ready to build, so they can make the most money.
So sorry. I was just going to say that it's interesting you bring that up. The solution to that is to introduce a land tax. And then even if you just sat on the land and it's accumulating value, you're being taxed. So it's up to you to make a decision. The Country and Planning Act in 1947, that's a pain in the backside. And arguably that needs to go. Or needs to be repealed and then maybe something else brought in. And a lot of that relaxes it. And I've said it every week now for about a month, I think. 3D printed houses. You can do it out of concrete. You'll probably need steel reinforcement, but that can do a two-story house.
They're already doing it. That's already happening.
But it's not in the numbers that we should be doing it. And the Sultan of Brunei's already set a target of 40% of housing to be done 3D printed in Dubai by 2030. We're not setting targets like that.
They're not plastic, by the way.
No, they're not. They're concrete. It's actually like stuff that will stay up. Go on, David.
Boring point that's been made to me. You're not going to fix any of this unless you are going to build a lot more social housing. That's number one. Number two, 50% of new build in London, up to 50%, is being bought by buyers from overseas. We don't know who they are, how they are, but if you're going to have to build twice as many homes, if you see what I mean, because half of them are going to be bought by people who don't actually intend to live in them, and often, they're just living part-time in them or occasionally, so they're not even renting them out necessarily, or they're putting them on Airbnb or whatever. You've got a real problem there. So yes, you clearly do need to build more, but you can't do it as you're doing it at the moment. You cannot let the system be entirely run by developers. Somebody else has got to get involved in that.
Those foreign developers are not paying any tax on those properties either if they sell them.
No, so there's a Russian oligarch. There's a Russian oligarch that owns Brompton Station, which he's done nothing with, and that's just gone up in value. And he's not going. He'll pay capital gains on it, maybe, and that's about it. But everything else is just sat there, and you're going, well, you're just obviously accumulating value, whilst the rest of us are all paying taxes. Yeah. That's why I'd say there's an argument for a land tax. On that cheerful note. Bye, everyone. Thank you, guys.
Be sure to tune in next week for another exciting story from the files of Police Squad.
So there was Jeremy Hunt getting ripped apart in the Commons. I think one of the MPs came up and said, children's heights have shortened. What are you doing about that? And he came out and said, austerity is great.
Malnutrition.
Yeah. We've got diseases back from the Victorian period.
Rickets.
How do you do
I know Jacob Rees-Mogg is into nostalgia and all, but I didn't think it to that level.
Yeah. And a lack of vitamin D, because kids don't go outside anymore. They just stay in the bedrooms playing.
What's the problem? Proper English diseases for a true, an independent country. I know. We were taking back control of diseases. You see,
they're happy diseases. That's what they are.
Exactly. These were, because that's associated with, sending kids up the chimneys and whatever. So If it's shorter, then they can, they can work more easily in the sweatshops or whatever.
Oh, crikey!
Their little hands can go inside the machines.
Yeah, exactly. So I may or may not use that one later.
No, maybe not.
Not sure everyone understands sarcasm, so you
yeah,
have to be careful of that.
Oh, I'm screwed then.